So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to build some speaker stands, but these aren't just standard speaker stands. These are actually filled with sand to help them decouple from your room to make your speaker sound even better.
True Sound Studios is in your ears.
Hey guys, what is up? I'm Weezna, and as always, we are here at my studio, True Sound Studios. And today I get to show you guys how to build these speaker stands that are right behind me. So obviously speaker stands are a great way to be able to get your speakers at a good height, whether you're using these for recording, which I am building them for my recording studio here, or you're just using them for maybe some home theater speakers in your living room or dining room or whatever. So really good speaker stands actually decouple the speaker from the room so that the vibrations from the speaker cabinet don't transfer to the floor and start to introduce frequencies that are really not actually there, but rather are being amplified because the speaker is connected essentially to the floor by transferring that vibration right through the stand. So a great way to decouple a speaker from the room is by using a speaker stand that is just really dense and heavy, and also has some sort of feet on the bottom that are also going to help decouple the speaker from the room. So today I'm going to show you guys how to build these stands. They weigh about 55 pounds in the end, and they're going to have rubber feet. Now, not only can you use rubber feet, you could use those decoupling spikes. These are like self-adhesive spikes that will stick on the bottom of your stands and help just even further decouple the speaker from your room. All right guys, so let's get into this video and let me show you how to build these sand-filled speaker stands. Okay, so for materials, we will need 4 1-inch by 4-inch by 8-foot long pieces of pine. We will need 4 1-inch by 6-inch by 8-foot long pieces of pine. And for the top and bottoms of our speaker stands, we will need 2 1-inch by 11-inch by 4 feet long pieces of MDF. Now, you don't have to use MDF. You could also use plywood if you wanted to, but in this case, I used MDF shelving. So then you will need a drill with a drill bit to help pre-drill some of the holes. You will need some wood screws, and I definitely recommend some good quality wood screws, as these are going to be really important on making these stands really strong. You will need some caulking, and this caulking is going to help keep our sand. You can see we got 100 pounds of sand here. We need to keep 50 pounds essentially of sand in each speaker stand. So we're going to need caulking to seal all the wood together. Then you will need a saw. You will need paint to just make these look nicer in the end, a tape measure, a pencil, and a level. So these 4 pieces of wood here, I cut at 38.5 inches long, and 2 of these are the 1x4 pine, and the other 2 are the 1x6 pine. So these 4 pieces of wood will make up the post for just one stand, so obviously we'll need to make 4 more pieces of wood for the other stand. Okay, so now it is time to start assembling these posts. So as you can see here, I am laying out both 1x4 pieces of pine, and it's going to be really important that we caulk every single joint on this post, because we want to make sure that we keep the sand inside of our speaker stand so that it's not leaking out everywhere. So here I am using some caulking, and this is 30-minute dry time caulking, so it just dries really quickly. And I'm running beads of caulking on both of the 1x4-inch pine. Now I'm going to take the 1x6 pine and go ahead and lay it on top of the 2 pieces of wood. And then using the construction screws and making sure it's all lined up, I'm going to put 4 screws on each side of this post. So we just want to make sure that our screws are going through the wood and pulling both pieces together, so that you can see here the caulking starts to ooze out of the joint, meaning we have put enough pressure on both pieces of wood and it's really locked together. So now we can simply go ahead and just spin it around and put 4 more screws on the other side to lock the other piece of wood together. As you can see here, the piece of wood is bowed and it's bowing inside of our speaker stand. So I put a screw in there, used a pair of pliers to be able to pull it back out so that it was nice and flush on the outside. So now the caulking that bled out from those joints, you can use some of that caulking if you want to go ahead and start filling in the holes where you put the screws. Essentially, it's going to be on the front of the post. And you just want to go ahead and clean this up because this is going to help later on when it comes down to sanding the caulking and just making this look really nice. So now you can see I'm going to go ahead and flip it upside down and screw and caulk the last piece of wood that will make up our full post. And once again, just laying enough caulking down. Putting the 1x6 on top and really pressing it in place. And putting 4 more screws on either side of the 1x6. So as you can see here, once again, the wood is slightly bowed, and this time I'm using a clamp to put some pressure on there so that I can make it nice and flush with the other piece of wood. And there you go. That is both of the stands assembled and caulked. And just once again, it's really important to make sure that you're using enough caulking that the sand won't leak out of here when we fill it with about 50 pounds of sand. And then just a quick look inside of each post. Okay, so now we need to make the top and bottom plates for our speaker stands. So here, this is the MDF wood that I used, and I cut them to 20 inches wide, and the other measurement is 11 inches. Now, obviously, this depends on the size of your speakers or how wide you want to make these stands. So now I'm going to take one of the plates, one of the MDF pieces of wood, and I need to find exactly where the center is. So I put the post on top of the plate, and now I'm measuring to make sure that it's even all the way around to make sure that this post is in the center of that piece of MDF. And now what I'm going to do is use a pencil and just go ahead and mark where it is. So now we can pull the post away, and now using a cutoff piece of 1x4, I can find out exactly where our post is, and so that I can screw in through the plate and into the post and make sure that I hit the center of the 1x pieces of pine. So as you can see here, I'm just using it as a guide. And then where I'm drawing this squiggly lines, that is where our post is going to match up when I drill the holes through this plate and into the post. And this X here, that is the void in our post. That's the void where we're going to fill it with the sand. So as you can see here, the screws, this is where we're going to screw into. So now I'm using a drill, and I'm just drilling through essentially where the corners are so that I can make sure that this lines up really well when we flip it over on the other side. So now before I go ahead and screw this in, once again, we need to caulk this joint. Now this is going to be the bottom of the speaker stand, so do not go lightly on this caulking. Essentially all of our sand is going to be pushing down on this joint. And here you can see I'm just using my finger to kind of smush that caulking in and really make sure that we seal this up really well. So now I'm going to go ahead and using the markings from the plate, I'm going to go ahead and line it up to exactly where I had it when it was flipped upside down. So now because I drilled the holes right through the plate, I can use those holes as guides to screw in the plate right to the post. And once again, I'm using some really strong construction screws to hold this together because in the end, these speaker stands are going to be pretty heavy. So now I flip the stand back over, and this is going to be the bottom of our speaker stand. And I'm just, once again, the caulking that squished out from our joint, I'm just smoothing that out and then just adding a little bit more where there was any sort of void. So now what I did is I took a scrap piece of wood that is bigger than the plates, than those 4 top and bottoms to our speaker stand, and I'm using a level to level it on our floor. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put the speaker stand on top of this piece of wood that is now leveled. So this way I can go ahead and check the level on the top of the post to make sure that this speaker stand I'm building is really plumb, it's level, so that it's not leaning to either side or front and back. So here I'm taking the level to check where I need to potentially go ahead and fill in some space. So you can use a wood shim or whatever you want to go ahead and fill this in. I'm just going to use a piece of paper, and then later on I'm going to use some caulking to fill in the layers of the paper just to make it really strong so that it doesn't ever settle. And then just put the level back on there to make sure that it is all leveled out. And then I can just rip the remainder of the paper off. So here is the sand that I bought. This is just some place sand. These are 50-pound bags. Now I bought 3. I thought I was going to need more. I just didn't want to run out. Turns out I didn't need 150 pounds. 100 pounds of sand is going to be more than enough. As you can see here, it's a 50-pound bag of sand. And that is the piece of paper there. And I just simply taped it on to make sure I knew where it needed to stay. And now we went back outside, and now I cut open a bag of sand, and I'm filling both of the stands with sand. So I'm going to need to fill it up all the way to the top. And then also you want to make sure that you rock the stand back and forth to kind of get that sand to settle into place. And then you'll know exactly how much sand it will take to fill up this entire void in our post. And then simply just go ahead and, get rid of extra sand. And you can even use a brush to get rid of the sand that is on top of the wood now. Because we're going to go ahead and caulk the tops of these stands also, we just don't want any of the sand to get in the way again. And then here, once again, I'm using the 1x4 cutoff to do the same thing as I did at the bottom and go ahead and drill the holes through. So this time I did things a little differently because I wanted to make sure that I lined this up properly. I went ahead and just put 2 screws through the top plate. It's just kind of like a reference guide. And then I'm going to go ahead and take those screws back out. And here is where I take the caulking, and I'm going to unfold the paper and just essentially glue this all together with caulking just so it doesn't shrink or move at all. And now I'm just folding it back up, all glued together. And then finally, I can use the caulking to go all the way around the edge of our post and just really seal this up really well. And once again, you probably don't want to go light on the caulking, and make sure if you put down your shim that you caulk not only the bottom of the shim, but also the top so that there is no space for the sand to escape. And now I can take the top plate and put it on top of the post, and I can use the construction screws to permanently screw this together. So now you can go ahead and sand and paint your stands and call them done. So I will include a list of all these materials in the description of this video. So after these speaker stands were complete, I used our scale in our house and weighed these, and they weighed about 55 pounds each. Okay guys, so there you go. That is how you build some sand-filled speaker stands. So just a couple things to note real quick. So what I didn't show you is what I'm going to be putting at the very bottom of the speaker stand. So I went and ordered some of those speaker spikes. Now these are supposed to help even decouple the stand from the floor even more, but I'm not sure how well these worked. I've never actually used them in the past. I also went out and bought some rubber feet that are supposed to help decouple. And I also have some 3/4 inch rubber that I'm going to try to cut up in strips and just kind of try it and play around with it. I just don't know what is going to work better. I'm never satisfied with just doing one thing and just leaving it there. And then eventually I'll come back and just make a really quick little follow-up video to show you guys what I ended up deciding on. So another thing to note is I made the top and bottom plates 20 inches wide. Now I did that because I'm gonna be putting 2 sets of speakers on each stand. So I'm gonna have 2 speakers on each stand. So that's why I made it 20 inches wide. Obviously, with your own speaker stands, you can make them as wide or as narrow as possible. If you do make them a little wider, you might want to consider making the base even wider. Instead of using the 4-inch and 6-inch wood, you might want to go with 6-inch and 8-inch wood just to make the base even wider. And then just the last thing being the top and bottom plates. We use that MDF wood. Now that wood is good, you know, it's thick, it's dense, but it is kind of sometimes known to start to bend, especially when it absorbs moisture. So make sure you definitely paint it. And if you have some really heavy speakers, you can just very simply support the ends that are hanging out even further. Just support those so that, you know, the top plate doesn't end up bending on you. Okay guys, so there you go. That is how you build some sand-filled speaker stands. So if you guys are looking for even more information on recording, producing, mixing, or mastering, go ahead and check out the over 150 videos I currently have right here on the True Sound Studios YouTube channel. So not only do I make these YouTube videos, but I also can produce, mix, and master your tracks that you record at your home studio. You can actually send them via email to here at True Sound Studios, and we can go ahead and make your track sound even better. So thank you for watching this video. If you guys enjoyed this video, click that like button and consider subscribing for more content. So not only do I make YouTube videos, but I also produce tracks and I can mix and master your music. So once again, thank you for watching this video. I'm Weezna and True Sound Studios is in your ears.